BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and it's time to talk about how one of Beyblade's greatest characters went from getting free W's to only taking nothing but L's, like the one in the third part of his name, Free de la Hoya. Wait, are we sure about this? Yeah, of course. Being negative about what's tied for the most popular season, especially his characters, is going to skyrocket us into the algorithm. Fine, we'll regret this. Now first, let's get into the reasons why people like Free de la Hoya. He's strong, he wins, and nothing else. Nothing about his personality and the effects of being champion had on it. Nothing about his relationship with Chris. Nothing about his attempts to make the team stronger by making them not rely on him and leaving so he could challenge them. Nothing about the maturity he had in choosing to forfeit so he would not only destroy himself physically and jeopardize his career one bit. Nope, we like him because he wins and barely loses. That's all. Well, when we look at his role throughout Season 2, he wins and that's what makes him great. He beats Vault, then Rentaro, and then his whole team. And clearly this was meant to represent how he's so strong he could solo almost the whole World League and doesn't need these district level losers. We're going to ignore him pushing Vault and Rentaro to do better. Let's focus on him beating Cisco and then Kuza before he decides to leave. Because just like the best theory of Beyblade X, if you win almost all the time like Common X and Multi do, you should just leave your teammate a la Bird and join another team. Because clearly that's a great idea. Leaving your friends who you've built a strong camaraderie and trust with alongside your sponsors who support you emotionally and financially despite not being as rich as corporate sponsors who don't care about team spirit. And that definitely won't lead to self-doubt, anxiety, confusion, pain, betrayal, and a character like Bird definitely deserves that. It's not like that trope worked for Free because the toxic mentality on relying solely on one group or one solo person on a group of people that are supposed to be working together was not only the point, but something the team had to overcome when facing off against AC Gallus and Royals, especially when half of BC Seoul at the time of the first quarter was filled with toxic jerks who were fine with stagnation and refused to help the team, and new team members or recognize their potential elsewhere, or actively decided to work with the newcomers to push the team to new heights and was something Free was actively striving for. No, he clearly was like, yo, BC Seoul, the rest of you suck. I'm gonna take a flight to America, join the New York Raging Bulls, a team consisting of the emotionally mature and definitely stable Shu Kurenai, the bombastic actor known for throwing the first half of fights to lure people into a false insecurity, unless facing off against people with a strong chance of beating him with a narcissistic and spotlight complex that definitely will sabotage us in the final battle, a la Joshua Boone. The iconic Dylan Summers and the memorable Bruce Code are the only person from the Snake Pit besides Red Eye with a name until the World League ends and Rentaro's final win for 2 seasons in Richard Yellow. Run by a guy that would be perfect working in a sales room with a pit of snakes and Alexander Glitton. Clearly, this was the best team for Free, and there's no downsides to this whatsoever. Also, it's not like Free is similar to Louis in that as long as a person that they're fighting is a decent person with good blading skills, he will want a challenge. He definitely didn't want to fight in the World League finals against Cisco for the final round despite feeling like the team was at its strongest and ready to challenge him again. No, he was so goated he only needed to fight the World League once and assert his dominance. And then he lost to Louis, which, oh no. Wait, this isn't fraud at all because Louis was number 1 and beat Shu so clearly he had more drive to win. And this is the only example we'll justify. Then he bodied Sasha because women have no pace in Beyblade except as Bay trainers or support, like all women should be in real life. And in the World League, he bodies everyone and humiliates everyone in Block B, especially Cisco and Rex Louis and Nightmare after being a GOAT. Now, you may say he lost against Vault because he had to forfeit, but his hype and aura were so big it couldn't keep up with his body. And definitely not a message you need to take care of your mental and psychological health with opportunities for next time. But in Season 3, well, everyone knows after Season 2, there's nothing redeemable about Burst. Feels like something metal fans have also said and would agree with. But, wait, Free wins more than he loses? He beat Iga twice? Even when Iga used Dark Resonance? Kyle with no difficulty? And then, oh no, Iga didn't have plot armor that time. So Free wasn't a fraud? Crap, what do we do? This questions the whole thesis of our video. Damn it, fine. Well, against Vault, he did lose, but he did beat Vault 4 times, who's using Chozi Valkyrie, and he lost the next round. And if you point out that's unfair because it was training battles to help Vault perfect his new blade, after complaining his first fight with Aiga, where both got their new blades for the first time, was BS despite Aiga copying and replicating what Vault did with his own strength and physical abilities from working on a farm, and saw what Vault's true strength with winning was like after he trained with it later. Shut up. And he lost to Fi. Wait, we can't say Fi had plot armor, otherwise people are going to point out we're hypocrites for questioning why the main antagonist should get beaten his first fight with an upgrade. Well, Free had Geist Counter, which he definitely could have used against Vi as a speed counter to dodge the armor. And no, just because it was the first time anyone saw the dead armor be used against him doesn't mean he should have won, but I'm right and you're wrong. And we don't have to talk about Season 4 outside of the fact that bum Fumiya made Fafnir's line look bad and Free should have been in the series. Wait, hold on. Isn't it Wizard's fault that it doesn't have some of the gimmicks that made the other Fafnirs good? Plus, if Free was in GT, wouldn't you have complained that Drum and new characters had beaten him by episode 6? What? Of course not. I would never get mad if Free lost to a new character. Sparking. Why the hell did he lose to those newbies? How did they make Free a fraud this badly? How did he lose to almost everyone? Well, can't say I didn't see that reaction coming. Also, don't you think that's a little bit over exaggeration? He has 6 wins and 8 losses. And also, this is the show where most of the legends were losing to other legends. Besides, are we going to point out that he only lost to Hikaru and Vault because Vault was there? Who cares? He should have beaten Lane in the flashback. It would have made way more sense if Free beat him because he's afraid of his power. Wait, how would it make sense to establish a guy who wants to end the legends if his first opponent in Free easily beat him? Who cares? He struggled against Cisco and lost to Hyuga. Well, let's not forget that Cisco's gotten stronger to the point he's now a legendary blader and has almost had a strategy, but Free's just been slightly better than him for the vast majority of the time. And during the other fight, Hyuga was being guided by Vault, and after that huge 4-way clash, Free and Louis' blades had no room to use their special moves. Meanwhile, Valkyrie used its gimmick to fire Hyperion straight at them like a comet. Wait, well, the Legend Super Tag Battle League, they didn't even win once. Wait, didn't they beat Drum and Louis? Yeah, but Cisco did most of the work. Well, Cisco set up Dragon to get launched airborne into the Storm Plate, so Fafnir could knock it out with Nothing Break. Then Free locked Louis' blade in place so Cisco's blade can knock them both out of the stadium when they were distracted. You don't consider that a team effort? What about the rest of the fights? They lost to Aiga and Ranjiro. Ranjiro took advantage of the Storm Plate at the last minute to survive against Cisco after Aiga and Free knocked each other's blades out of the stadium. And they lost to Hyuga and Hikaru, 2 bladers that they trained in the past, and Free was actively testing to see whether or not they could surpass them by activating Hikaru's limit break so that they couldn't use some of their team attacks, only for Hikaru to come in clutch and use his mode change to KO Cisco so Hyuga could use his limit break to stadium out Free. I thought we agreed we were going to criticize the other battles for being rushed. Like what? How Cisco and Free would have followed up on when they had worked with Vault and Rentaro, since the fight felt like the first half was missing, or how we only saw the conclusion to him and Cisco against Lane and Shu, since we only could at least theorize that their plan was that Free focus on Shu instead of getting Bloodlusters to fight Lane and take advantage of Cisco's defense, so Free could use Nothing Break to blindside Lane, only for Shu to knock him out and Lane spin finish. Yeah, I thought that's what we agreed on when the name of this video was the actual problem with Free De La Hoya. Why did we change it? To get more views, obviously. Now let's talk about how Free De La Hoya was officially ruined in Season 6. Okay, we're done here. What are we talking about? You mean the season where he just got beaten by Bell and just left? That is not what happened. He got a chance to defeat Ranzo, who's irrelevant. Ranzo has more friends than you ever will. Anyway, he still lost against Bell. Why are we leaving out the fact that he defeated Bell twice, even after the latter made F-Gear, and that we agreed the problem was that their final fight didn't tackle how Free lost the last time via a slow motion burst, and how Bell needed to overcome that hurdle and difficulty? So, who cares about facts, reasons, and actual issues? Dude, we can't just lie to our audience and expect them to trust us. Isn't that the reason why we started this channel in the first place? Who cares? All you have to do is say something a loud minority agree on, whether it's true or not, and then rake in the views and algorithm boost if they try to fact check you. Especially if it's from a popular franchise that barely anyone talks about, where only the audience outside of the target demographic is able to criticize. And even then, some of it are terrible at it. Why not take advantage of that? We'll exaggerate as many troops as we can. You do know we're still recording, right? What? Yeah. Hey, give me that. Hey, stop, out. BIP of Bazaar, out. This was your idea, you idiot, out. Interest Productions. Hey, I'm trying to properly sign both of us.